Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we're going to continue our coverage and conversation around the shooting at Morgan State University, one of our great HBCUs. We're going to talk now a little bit about what students are doing, how they are responding to this unfortunate circumstance. I got my brother Sinead Duaquofor, who is an advocate and activist and one of the great student leaders who came from Morgan State University, give us the latest about the whole sentiment of the student body. We're going to have that conversation. Also, folks, I'm asking a big question based on a New York Times assessment of where we are in our state of democracy. Is democracy in chaos? I'm going to share with you what the New York Times had to say about this situation, and I'd love to get your take. And later on, we check in with a filmmaker and artist, Mr. Roxy Carvel, to talk to us about how he's doing his part to redefine Black arts and culture. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation and joining me today. We are streaming live on our home website, on our home platform, blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. So, folks, if you haven't had a chance, make sure you drop by and check us out as we are streaming live there. Of course, that is the space, that is the hub of all of our dynamic, dope programming we have here on Black Star Network. And it's also there where you can show your love and your support, so you can give something financially to help continue to power this digital movement that we are embarked upon. And of course, you can download the app for free on all of your devices and follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And we would love to continue to build with you. We're also streaming live on Amazon News, on your Fire TV, and on Plex TV, where we're streaming live on that platform 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And of course, our new platform, taking Amazon to the next level, we're at Prime Video, folks. So make sure you find us on the Prime Video app under live TV, then go to news, and then also find us on, or you can find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, then live TV, then news. Then we're there, and we're also on Freevee, and Black Star Network is there. So you can just find us under On Now, and then go straight to news, and boom, you will see us right there live and in living color. So check us out on all those platforms. Now, we're also streaming, of course, on our Facebook page. So make sure you check this out there on Roland Martin's Facebook page and on our YouTube page under Roland Martin. So make sure you check us out there. And it's on our YouTube page where you could join us in the chat to be a part of the illustrious culture crew for the day. Big shout out to the online culture crew that's checking in. I see the ABX girl is checking in. ABX girl, hello. My big brother, Brother Damon Blissett. Good to connect with you once again, dear brother. Pauline Hunt, thank you so much for checking in. We got Cindy D. I see you, Cindy. Hello, Cindy. John Allen, you checking in from Clarksdale, Mississippi. My man, thank you, John, for checking in. Pauline, thank you so much. McCall, good afternoon. Hey, McCall, good to connect with you again. My man, Monkey Confessions, thank you, sir, for checking in. Real Brooklyn, I see you. Hey. What's good, Real Brooklyn? Real Robin Welch, I see you as well. Thank you, Robin, for checking back in. Sweet Kids 2, thank you for checking in, being a part of the crew. And my sister, Corinna Denise. Corinna, good to see you once again. And Big Brother Willie Frazier. Good afternoon, Big Brother Willie. Thank you so much, sir. All right, folks, let's make it do what it do. Let's check in with my big brother. He is a diversity, equity, inclusion specialist. He's also a brother who has been on the front lines protesting for student rights, and improving the quality of student life, especially at the great Morgan State University. I'm so happy to have him joining us at this very, very critical time, especially in our HBCU. As you can see, I'm representing the Bears here today, Brother Sinead, dude. Gotta represent, yeah, bro. We gotta show our Bear pride, bro, especially at this time. But first of all and foremost, dear brother, how are you been? Good afternoon, big brother.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So, Sinead, let's talk a little bit about this situation because you're kind of in an interesting space because you are making your way, you were kind of traveling, and then you heard about this shooting yourself, right?
Yes, indeed. Indeed, I was.
So, what was going on? Like, you were traveling from where to where, and then what did you decide to do?
Yeah, I was traveling back for homecoming to visit and, do be merry, make merry, be, a typical Morgan student where you celebrate and meet up with your fellow students. And, the unfortunate situation kind of stopped me in my tracks. I had to turn back around due to the magnitude of what happened and the cancellation of the homecoming celebrations. It's rather unfortunate.
It is rather unfortunate, brother. It is very, very unfortunate to say the least. So we know that the latest right now, and there are some conflicting reports that are out there, but as of right now, based upon the school's communication, they have not found anyone. There are person of interest that the Baltimore City Police Department has, and they have released some video footage of that situation, some persons of interest, but no one has been arrested as of yet, as far as we know, right, Brother Shanabi?
Yes, so far no one has. There hasn't been any arrests announced.
And no one has passed away, no one has died. There has been no fatal. Because yesterday we reported that there were five people shot, non-life threatening injuries. So there has been no fatalities from the situation.
No, and that's a very important part to kind of speak on because we have to make sure that we're not projecting the idea that this was like an attempted murder type of situation. I think more
Yeah.
legal experts can get into that. But no life-threatening situations. Everybody is expected to make a full recovery.
Absolutely, that's a blessing. That's a real blessing. Here's the thing there are a couple of things that are happening, and as folks can see here in our headlines, there are a number of students as a result of the shooting. Folks, the classes have been canceled, homecoming ceremonies have been canceled, rightfully so. But there are a number of students, freshmen and other students, who have decided just to take a few days off. They've actually returned back home. And Brother Sinead, I wanted to kind of get your take on what that means and what you've been hearing on the ground there as these students are kind of going back home. Is there fear, or do these students feel like that this is, especially freshmen, they're just coming to this campus, classes are just getting started, and then boom, a situation like this happens. Is there a sense of fear that freshman students and other students are having, like they do not want to return back to campus?
As far as from what I've heard from administration, I think we should be very careful with our adjectives. There hasn't been from what they have gathered, there hasn't been a big sense of fear. It's more of concern and shock, more than anything else. This isn't like the term mass shootings is used to describe when it's two or more persons, but this isn't like the typical mass shooting that you would see that happens at universities or anywhere else. It was two disgruntled groups, and someone from the group decided to use a weapon to intimidate or what have you. So I think students are just more or less kind of concerned and just shocked by the fact that something like this would happen and that would be a solution to a disagreement. And to those who are going home, I think in times like this, you do whatever is best for your own mental health. And I know this university has been offering mental health services with the MSU Counseling Center in Carter Grant Wilson, as well as the executive team of the president has been open, keeping their doors open to students who want to talk. And more importantly, I'm very proud of the student organizations. They have all put out statements. They have all been trying to help each other. There has been like hashtags where people are keeping their spirits up to not allow the negative event to tarnish the wonderful legacy of the national treasure, Morgan State University.
Absolutely. As far as we know, Brother Shanae, are these students that are persons of interest, and Lisa, if you could post that, show that picture for us, please, one more time. Are these young people students of Morgan, or are these young people just from the outside of the community?
Now that is the good question. I think from last that I heard that that their person of interest might be a student, but it also could be a mixture of both. of students and somebody local for the community. But I always implore people to stick to what the university is saying, and more importantly, what the local media is putting out, because the details are still late breaking, and new details are coming. As you can see, the images were just published today. So as time
Yeah,
goes on, we'll get more definitive information. I don't like to say things too definitively because you don't want the story to change. So
right.
best I can say is that it's still developing, but they believe that these are students. At least the person is a student, or they are surrounded by somebody in that group who is a student.
I know that, and you know what the way you said it, I think was beautifully said, Brother Shanedu. In terms of let's not jump to conclusions. And Megan Gamble, you checked in, and welcome, Megan. You said let's be careful with our objectives. Gracefully said that she in praise of how you framed that, because yesterday when we talked about this story and we bringing up the security measures, um, the term mass shooting came up. And so, when we're just saying that mass shooting, it takes on a different life of its own. I, you know, what's your take on that, Bill? We got you on mute. We have the sound for Brother Sinedu. Okay, there we
You
go.
hear me?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can hear you now,
I
bro.
think the term is very dramatic, but there has never been, as far as I've known, there has never been some type of barometer for mass shooting. So the term it's kind of provocative, but by its definition, that's what
Yeah.
this is. But it's not within the same tense as we usually see it. So I think that's why it's important when we use the term that we give it more context, so that we can
Mm,
categorize it properly compared to how, because that's what builds the hysteria, and that's why I tell folks focus on local media, not the national media that turns up in times when these stories are big. But we
yeah.
have to add some type of contextual framework to what this is. But it is mass shooting by the definition. But
Yeah,
again, like
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And I think that and this is the part of the conversation that I wanted us to focus more on the students, because I mentioned this yesterday, Shanedu. MSU Morgan is it's a national treasure, but it is like the heartbeat of Northeast Baltimore. You know what I'm saying? In terms of the cultural, educational, it is like Baltimore's college. You know what I'm saying? Baltimore's university, along with the other HBCU, which we're going to talk about in a few moments. But um, making sure that the students and, of course, the neighborhood, the community around there, and in my sharing yesterday, Morgan is not situated in some ragtag neighborhood. Morgan's not situated in some dump. You know what I mean? That's a very, very, when you go down Hillen Road, when you go down Cold Spring, when you're in that neighborhood, it is a beautiful neighborhood, very diverse, a lot of families, lot of homeowners, legacy homeowners. So we're talking about a situation that reverberates all from inside the school to the outside community. What's your take on that, bro? Let me take our first pause.
yeah, I think that's important to say because this is a community built of homeowners. This is a community that is very well connected to the university. And I think it's important to kind of paint the picture that although Morgan is the heartbeat of this part of Eastern Baltimore, we are not the entire body. There are things beyond the control of Morgan State. And I think I kind of agree with Mayor Brandon Scott to say that some of the issues that we're experiencing goes beyond Morgan, goes beyond Baltimore, goes beyond Maryland. The issue that we have here is in regards to firearms. It's not about the community. That's the same community that, had this not happened, would have showed up in droves for the parade. That's the community where people's kids come out. That's the community where young kids were at the coronation as Mr. and Little Miss Morgan. That is the community that we're talking about, a thriving community. That's the community where our current mayor, Brendan Scott, went to school at Mervo. So I don't want there to be a narrative that this is a community that's unsafe. Or no, Morgan has been a big part of that community, and the community has been a big part of Morgan's story as well. So I think it's
Yeah,
really
that's a good
important
point.
that that narrative is put in the forefront.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that, bro. And for those who may not know, Mayor Brandon Scott made some remarks yesterday urging Congress to institute some level of gun reform as a result of this shooting. And of course, he's not solo in his cry out for some type of real change, because I know that's part of the conversation, gun reform. But my take on it very quickly is that we have a cultural issue. We got to have some cultural reform as well, in terms of violence being so prevalent in our communities that it does find its way onto safe spaces like a college campus, right? Where young people are coming in from all across the country. Young people are coming there to learn. You have staff and professors. You have a lot of folks that are at a college campus. So just trying to disrupt this culture of violence that we see happening in our neighborhoods and our communities each and every day. It's a tall order, brother Sinedu. You've been on the front lines as it relates to issues from police reform to violence. Where do we have that conversation, or how do we have that conversation to really break through that wall?
Well, if we're being honest and if we're following this trend, this is a bigger conversation of safety. This is a bigger conversation of economics. This is a bigger conversation of equity. When I think about how Morgan State continues to push safety and community, we have to also have the bigger conversation about the underfunding of HBCUs. Like, we have to talk about that, because that is also important for building the environment, the complete secure environment where the young students can come. Morgan has continued to increase security and security measures year in and year out. But we have to also understand that, we're not the wealthiest school. And we are, with the HBCU equity case, it shows that we have been underfunded over the past couple of decades. And folks may say that doesn't matter, but these things don't happen overnight. These issues about safety and security are a long-term type of situation that we have to have a bigger conversation on.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, folks, I want us to continue the conversation about Morgan State University. I want us to talk about what another HBCU was doing to stand in solidarity with their fellow HBCU. We're going to talk about Coppin State University and how they are lending support to Morgan at this time. Folks, stay with us. We still got more conversation on the other side right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Network. I'm your folks. Welcome back to the Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We are continuing our coverage about the shooting that occurred on Tuesday night at Morgan State University. And this is the shooting where 5 people were shot, non-life-threatening injuries. But 4 of those 5 were students of Morgan State, and one of them was not a student. Police are still looking for the suspect, even though they have shown some video stills of persons of interest in this situation, but no arrest has been made as of yet. However, even though there has not been any fatalities or arrests made, the community is still reeling from the situation, given the fact that this all occurred during Morgan's homecoming ceremony. So ceremony activities have been postponed. Classes have been canceled from yesterday all the way until Friday by President David Wilson, and rightfully so. And it has reverberated around the country as this has become a national story. We've been checking in with my big brother, Brother Shinedu Wakorfo, who's a diversity, equity, and inclusion specialist. He is an alumni of Morgan State University, one of the great student leaders to come from Morgan State University. But then I think, Brother Shinedu, there is a silver lining in this gray day that hangs over Morgan State. The fact that the HBCU community has decided to stand up with Morgan State University at this time. Morgan State is, of course, situated in Northeast Baltimore, but just a few miles on the other side of town in West Baltimore, along the historic North Avenue corridor. Is Coppin State University. And at Coppin State last night, about 50 students and a dozen more staff members, professors and staff, gathered together to view what they call a prayer walk in support of the victims of Morgan and in support of their fellow HBCU. And I thought this was a powerful, powerful statement of Black unity and Black excellence to see that a fellow HBCU is showing this type of support. There we go there. And you can just see pictures of that happening. But students from Coppin, particularly students from Coppin, teachers who live in the area of Coppin State University, but who graduated from Morgan, they all showed their support. There was in the story coming from the Baltimore Sun, one sister, her name is Sharon Blake. She's a retired Baltimore City public school teacher. Jean Wilson Ritchie. Let me start with her. Miss Wilson Ritchie, a 1972 Morgan State graduate. She lives near Coppin. She said friends all over the HBCU community called her yesterday. She said, I heard from friends at Texas Southern in North Carolina, from Wiley College, Florida A&M, and schools in Louisiana. She said, I understood they generally cared about what had happened because we are all one family. How does that feel, bro? I mean, just thinking that there is a network of support that's available to one of our HBCUs when an unfortunate situation like this happens.
Yeah, sorry, the
all good.
Announcer is going on. I don't know if you can hear them in the background.
Yeah, no, you good. We can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear, bro.
Okay. So what I was going to say is, it's no surprise here. This is a fellow Baltimore school, HBCU sibling is what Coppin is to us, and we're the 2 HBCUs in the city. And I'm not surprised that the solidarity is being shown because we're all one Baltimore. We're all one big HBCU family, and it's also a bigger message to let everyone know that violence is not acceptable on any of our campuses. It's not something that we accept, not something that we lean towards. And I've heard from many friends who graduated from HBCUs across the country who are also showing their solidarity and their support, and that's the HBCU legacy. So I am happy to see, even as a graduate, that folks still have that mind to show signs of solidarity, and more importantly, bringing prayer, which is something very historical to these schools, bringing prayer as a means of collectivism of the people. I'm very proud that our sisters across the way and brothers across the North Avenue showed their solidarity.
And I mean, and I think it kind of dispels this myth that these schools are in competition with one another, right? Like it really takes away this it adds to the energy that we are all on one page, but then it also dispels this myth, like, we're fighting and whatnot. When you're talking about HBCUs, right? We could talk about the historical impact of it, the historical significance of the schools, but now you got to translate that into the modern day time. And I think that's one of the big things that this demonstration shows, that and it shows the value and the importance of a school like this. Because once you love the brotherhood, I remember in the scriptures it says just that speaks, like that's when you know you have come to light. That once you love your brother and your sister, and you can feel their pain, even when you are not in pain, that's when you know something special is happening there.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are all we're one. So that's in fact exactly how it has been. And it's important to say that we celebrate together, but we also mourn together. And that's
Mm.
important that we understand that as a Black community, as an HBCU community, that has been our history since our founding. And I think it's rather remarkable to see that the new generation is carrying on that torch of together.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true. Angie, you check it in. Angie Brown, thank you for being a part of the chat. Angie, you said very much, so much love. I'm into that. Everyone has had enough, and gun violence and violence at all is unacceptable. We all stand together on this topic. Where do we go from here, Brother Shanita? We got a few moments left to talk about this a little bit, but where do we go from here? Because does this situation, even with the stand of solidarity from Coppin, even with HBCUs showing their support, what, does it really put a change in anything as security measures? Does it change? Like, what do we do with all of this attention and potential momentum?
So this, to me, is a multi-pronged approach, multi-dimensional situation. I stand by the recommendation and the guidance of Mayor Brandon Scott, where we have to go federally and get some legislations as it pertains to guns. We cannot kick that can down the road any further. Um, we have to do something about these guns, because no matter if we had a million officers there that day and a million metal detectors or whatever, the access to guns, the proliferations of guns, the need of guns uh, by just regular Americans, it's getting to an uncontrollable level. We saw that on January 6th a couple of years ago. It's getting crazy. That is on the macro level of what our government should be doing. I think from the local approach, from the university standpoint, I think the university will continue to assess the security situation, um, have experts make recommendations, take those recommendations to the community, which they've always done, to the SGA, the student regents, the board of regents, and make a collective decision on what is best for everybody, as well as the community. The Maryland governor can continue to advocate for gun control and gun legislation. But I think it's not a who is to blame for everything. And I think that's where people go in times of crisis, where it's blame this person, blame that person. It's a collective thing that needs to happen. It's a myriad of solutions. And we need to not let this go by the wayside. They catch the gentleman, and then tomorrow we let it go. Because unfortunately,
Yeah.
we've had over 500 mass shootings this year, almost averaging two a day. You know, it's bigger than just what happened at Morgan. This is a national issue, a countrywide issue, an American cultural issue.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the big things that I keep thinking about is I think it was maybe, see, this is 2023. I think it was like 2022 or 2021. Remember, there was this rash of like threats coming to HBCUs. You see what I'm saying? And I mean, this was just over the past year, about 2 years ago. Y'all remember this crew? You know, the folks were calling in bomb threats over, at HBCUs. And, I don't know what has happened since then in terms of the security. I don't know with some new measures have been put in place, but I hope folks don't, like you said, go back to sleep and just say, oh, okay, well, it's over, or they caught the person that's responsible for this shooting, therefore we're good. We're finding that every couple of years there are moments where HBCUs are under attack in a violent way. And even we thank God that no one was fatally killed during this scenario, but it could happen. It really, really could happen. Official Tanika, you said HBCUs need more armed security details, especially while people are working out policies. In the meantime, more armed security. And I know that the Morgan State Police, the Baltimore City Police, they're gonna investigate whether they handle this situation properly. With given the amount of people and all of the festivities, they're gonna handle that. But what's your take on what Official Tanika said? More armed security, is that something that we need to do?
Certainly, but like I said, more armed security, in my opinion, would have apprehended the suspect. It wouldn't have changed what the assailant did. I think what we need to be looking at is we need to be discussing a lot of mental health of these young people. Disagreements are not new to the universe. They're not new to the world. We've been hearing about disagreements since biblical times. But to be picking up a gun, any type of weapon, when you disagree is egregious. And I believe, and I follow studies and I follow research that I think we have to address the mental health situation in this country because it's not getting good. Our children are suffering mentally, and it's being labeled as a niche, and it's not niche. We have to talk to our kids. Parents need to have conversations with their children, love on their children, because I know back in my day, I'm not that old, but like at the very least, when you didn't have an agreement with somebody, it wasn't about pulling a firearm. It wasn't about trying to seriously harm somebody. At worst, people would fight, and you move on from that. It's starting to progress to a very dangerous level, and I think ignoring the mental health and just increasing security doesn't solve the problem all the way. It needs to be both.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely would agree with that. Well said. All right, folks, look, we're going to continue to keep our eyes on this situation, and of course, any new updates about this situation, but we will certainly continue to pour out our prayers to make sure that the students and the community of Morgan State University recovers. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's shift gears. Let's talk about, as we talk about guns, as we talk about safety and security, let's talk about the uncertainty of democracy, the state of democracy right now. There is more and more national conversations that are being had right now, folks, where folks are just wondering what is going on with American democracy. I'm gonna share with you some of the latest around this issue from the New York Times, as they put out a piece today about where we stand with democracy, going as far as to say democracy is in chaos. And I want to get your take. Do you agree or disagree? Is democracy in chaos? We're going to have this conversation started off with Brother Shanadu, and of course, continuing it with you on the other side. So stay with me. That discussion is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, checking in with my big brother and culture crew member, Brother Sinedu Okorafor. All right, Brother Sinedu, let's talk about something that you are also passionate about outside of Black student issues. You're also passionate about this thing called politics. And what are we looking at here, brother? What are we looking at? Of course, that historic vote to oust Kevin McCarthy happened this week. But it has now been brought into a larger picture. And this is why I think it's important for us to not get bogged down on small circumstances of one particular incident or situation. You got to look at the big picture here. The New York Times put it out there on their morning newsletter, folks. If you get the New York Times morning newsletter in your email, they put it out there. They're saying that democracy is in chaos. Let me share with you what they had to say in this briefing this morning. They say, and I'm asking this question, is democracy in chaos? And I want to get your take on it's true. But it said, imagine if you were a foreign leader surveying the political chaos in the United States. For the first time in history, a party has just fired its own Speaker of the House in the middle of a term. In the Senate, one of the two party leaders, who's 81 years old, has twice recently frozen in public, unable to speak, and continues to vow, I'm going to just throw this in there, Mitch McConnell, he continues to vow to stay in office. A Supreme Court Justice, Clarence Thomas, has allowed wealthy political donors to finance a lavish lifestyle for him and his wife, and that same justice's wife urged officials to overturn the 2020 presidential election result based on lies. A likely nominee in the upcoming presidential election is facing 4 criminal trials and regularly speaks in apocalyptic terms about the country's future. That nominee is essentially tied in the polls with an 80-year-old president who many voters worry is too old to serve a second term. If you were an ally of the U.S., you have to be wary. If you were an enemy, you have to be pleased. According to Peter Barker of the Times, he said, to many watching at home and abroad, the American way no longer seems to offer a case study in effective representative democracy. Instead, it has become an example of disarray and discord, one that rewards extremism, challenges norms, and threatens to divide a polarized country even further. Woo, that's a lot to take in, Brother Shinadu. I know you got to jump off.
A lot of words.
It's a lot of words, but it speaks to the truth and the reality that we find ourselves in this country. Do you believe a democracy is in chaos, bro? Would you agree or disagree with that statement?
I would agree it's in chaos. I would agree. I would say it's been in chaos for a while, and I am of the unpopular opinion that it's not just Democratic or Republican. It's politicians altogether. The fact that eight individuals, had the power or foresight to be able to remove a speaker is unheard of. The fact that somebody would agree on that rule in the first place, which is what McCarthy did, is unheard of as well. But it's I said this to a colleague of mine the other day. I said it's almost like this is a funny TV show, but it's real life. These are people's lives. This is the state of the country. In 40 something days, our government is up to be shut down yet again. And we don't even have a speaker to currently negotiate those deals or make those deals. Like, what is happening? The world that looks to us to be a leader in democracy. I think there's two things America exports greatly, and that's democracy and freedom. And both of those things are up for question right now. And it's a huge deal. It's not just about the economics of the country, but the soul of what this nation was, quote unquote, built upon, or at least what we said in the Constitution. These things are all up for question right now, and it's dangerous.
It's dangerous. And very quickly, Brother Shanita, because I'm going to let you go and on up your time. Where does Black America sit with this? Where do we stand in knowing that the very thing that we have always hoped for, a system of representative politics, may be the thing that it may be the thing that may not be able to save us? Where do we stand in that?
That's a hard one. That's a hard one. I think as it pertains to Black America, I mean, what I would say is we stand in confusion, in disbelief. I think, for me personally, I believe that the elected officials that are representing us are doing, quote unquote, best that they can, but we need more. We need more people. We need more strategy. And that's another thing. I don't think we're strategizing great enough. It's just, again, kick the can down the road, work with what we got. And that's what we've been doing. And how well is that working when the economy goes down? It hits us first because we are historically haven't had the funds or the laws or the organization to be beneficiaries of the great American dream. So I believe, and I always speak on voting, I believe this is why it's important that we are voting in our interest. People who look like us, stand with us, and represent what we represent, so that we do have a fighting chance, so that when moments like this come down, we're not just sitting in a catatonic state.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm gonna stop it there with you, brother, because I know you got to hop off. But I truly, truly appreciate your insight, your expertise, as always. Of course, we're gonna have our brother to join us for our upcoming Black Men Summit, where we're redefining and celebrating Black manhood. So I can't wait to hear what you bring to the conversation as we have those discussions as well, kicking off on October the 16th. But Brother Shanadu, thank you so much for always bringing us so much to think about, and more importantly, thank you for being so good for the culture. May God bless you to get home safely, brother, and we'll reconnect with you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Peace.
All right, peace, brother. Folks, we're going to take another quick pause. When we come back on the other side, let's continue this conversation. I'm going to share with you what else the New York Times had to say as they spoke to political scientists, they spoke to democracy scholars as they look at this thing about whether democracy is in chaos. Folks, this is a very serious situation. And just over these past couple of days, past 48 to 72 hours, we're seeing something different. And I know that some of us might not think that this is a major shift, but it is a huge shift from what we have been used to. It's a huge, huge shift. So I'm going to share with you what else has been said about the state of democracy and, of course, get your take on this. But the big question is, for the Big Culture Convo, is democracy in chaos? Do you agree or disagree with this statement, folks? Join us in the conversation, streaming live right now on YouTube under Roland Martin. You can certainly watch us on Facebook. And of course, we are streaming on all platforms of Amazon News, Freevee, Plex TV, and Prime Video. And of course, on our home site of blackstarnetwork.com. Stay with me. The more conversation on the other side about this right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20036-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Here. All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We are continuing the conversation that we just started in the first half of the show, where we're asking this question based on a New York Times piece that laid out some things that have happened over the past couple of days and just over these past couple of months, where we're asking this question: is democracy in trouble? I mean, in chaos? Yes, it could be in trouble too. Because when we're looking at everything that has happened, from the removal of Kevin McCarthy from the speaker role, like I said, we really haven't gotten too deep into the situation with the Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. I mean, all of this stuff is coming out about his relationship with wealthy donors. We already know about his wife, Jeannie Thomas, and her urging, pushing the lie around the 2020 election. So we're seeing this, but this is coming from a Supreme Court justice, folks. So you have that situation that really has to be addressed. Knowledge of it is now coming to the light. But how is that be addressed? Can he be removed from a lifetime position? And if so, can you imagine the implications of that? Now, the Supreme Court, and there have been some, whether you're talking about government folks, political scientists, and others, who are saying there needs to be a code of ethics. But with all of that even said, will that lead to the removal of Clarence Thomas from the bench? So that's another situation. Of course, we talked about Trump, his legal issues, and how he's still considered to be the presumed nominee of the party. Is democracy in chaos? Now, let me share something else with you folks, and then I want to get your take on this very quickly. As part of this piece around this question, the writers asked a couple of political scientists and even an author about where we stand with our democracy. Here's what they had to say about this idea. First, starting with the democratic system needs two viable parties. This came from Miss Sarah Bender, who is a political scientist at George Washington University. She said, you need a set of leaders on both sides that have the confidence of their followers and have some understanding of the rules of the road. Then they asked Mr. Daniel Ziblatt, who is a co-author of the new book, recent book, Tyranny of the Minority. Take a listen, just check out what he said. He told the writers that the structure of the American political system was partly to blame. The Electoral College, the Senate, and gerrymandering have allowed Republicans to wield power without appealing to most Americans. He said, quote, our Constitution in this way is one of the several factors radicalizing the Republican Party, leading it to turn away from democracy itself. Woo. That's a lot to take in. The Electoral College, the Senate, and gerrymandering has allowed Republicans to wield power without appealing to most Americans. This is why he wrote the book Tyranny of the Minority, because as much as there's talk of in our political system of the people, it's not the will of the people, it's the will of the few that dictates the agenda about who's in office, about the issues that are of utmost importance. It's the will of the few that dictates who gets what resources and how power is distributed. And then he even points out the Constitution may be radicalizing people. The founding document of this whole country, our form of government, might be the same tool and has been weaponized and used as the tool to turn people away from the very thing it's supposed to outline and be the foundation for. Y'all hear me on this? I need to take me a drink. Not a drink. Just a little something, just a little water, a little tea, something. But this is tea. But as we talk about this, look at this. This is very serious. So, crew, I want to hear your take on this. Share with me your thoughts. We're streaming live right now on our YouTube page under Roland Martin. And what's your take on this? What's your take on this? Corinna, you checked in. My sister Corinna, Culture crew member. Y'all can see her here on Fridays at 4 o'clock on the Culture, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Corinna, you say we have a small part in accountability for the current state of the House and there being no speaker. Hakeem Jeffrey should be Speaker of the House right now, but we did not maintain the Democratic House majority. But do you imagine what type of games that will be played if he ascends to that position? We got to be prepared for that, though, too, right, Corinna? But we take accountability. This is the crazy part. Take a listen to, and Corinna, you pointed out something, and then you tell me if I'm going in the right direction with this. So we have always been taught that government will take care of certain things, right? We have always been conditioned and taught that really our greatest form of political participation is going to the ballot boxes voting, right? We have always been taught to have hope and faith in our political leadership, right? But when things are starting to fall down, when the faith starts to diminish, when the hope starts to wander, when the confidence starts to decline, then what happens? Now, we haven't been taught about this. It was said that after Kevin McCarthy was ousted from his seat, the term uncharted territory, uncharted waters, kept being used within the national zeitgeist of the coverage of that moment. We're in uncharted territory, we're in uncharted waters. And the part that makes it really uncharted for me, as I was kind of just taking an assessment of these things, is the fact that Americans, we do not have the knowledge or the skills in terms of what happens when our government starts to show some signs of weakness, when the foundations of the things that we say we believe in as a country, as a people, starts to crack. They don't teach us that stuff. We hear about that stuff in other countries, folks. Governments topple, leaders get assassinated. I mean, those things certainly have happened in this country, but not at the same rate as they may have happened in other countries. But political violence runs rampant. We've had our share of political violence, obviously, but not at the same rate. So the American people, we truly are not prepared for the government to fall apart. Even those of us in Black America, right? When we say, well, take it down, America needs to go down. My question is, okay, I understand the sentiment, but what is the backup plan? How do we not fall with the country? How do we get saved? All right, let me go to y'all, my online culture crew. My sister Anastasia, you checked it, Anastasia Paget. Anastasia, you said, Farajii, the Constitution that we see now isn't the real Constitution the European changed. The European changed the document to better than now what? What up is now, what was down is now up. So you're talking about that this is not the real Constitution. I mean, well, the only thing I can speak to that part of that, Anastasia, is like, well, you know, what is the real Constitution? If that's not the real Constitution that we have been, quote unquote, looking at and getting our guidance from, then what is the real Constitution? Okay. But you're right, things that are up, it's just everything is twisted. Beauty and Blood, thank you again. Good to connect with you once again, Beauty and Blood. You said the second that uncapped financial influence was deemed legal in our political system, the dream of democracy for and by the people died. You're talking about, and I saw your previous comment talking about capitalism really being at the root, as one of the key problems of this whole situation we find ourselves in. And I think that we need to have a conversation about that. I definitely think we need to have a conversation about that. See, right now, and I think Beauty and Blood, you might agree with me or disagree with me on this, but I'm thinking like right now, a couple of things would need to happen, right? And this might be far-fetched, this might be just me dreaming, but if political scholars and scientists and democracy scholars and scientists are saying, look, the problem may be the Constitution. We may need to have a modern day constitutional convention. Will that happen in 2024? Most likely not. But does it need to happen within the next 5 years? I think so. I think so. And I think it needs to happen in such a way that we need to make sure that people are fully engaged in this process. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves in some real hot water. All right, let me go back. Thank you, Beauty and Blood. Thank you, Anastasia. Let's continue to get your take on this. And I'm just looking. Oh, Cheryl Howell. Cheryl, you say, come out from among them, vote, flip seats to be able to pass laws beneficial to us, eat right to get our spiritual strength up, which helps with mental health, redistribute that $1 trillion we spend to us. So you got a couple of things here, Cheryl. You're saying, come out from among them, vote, and flip the seats to be able to pass laws beneficial to us. This is a different set of rules that they're playing by. And I'm saying anyone that's against the interests of the idea of liberty, freedom, justice, and equality, liberation, I'm talking about those who go against the fundamental interests of our humanity as Black folks in this country, goes against the fundamental interests of the value of poor people and marginalized communities in this country, because we're all in the same boat here. course, Black folks, we've had a long history of disenfranchisement, a long history of marginalization. We all know that. But now other communities are part of the same process, right? You know, where they're being disenfranchised. One of the groups that have always been disenfranchised by this country, even though this country owes a debt of gratitude, is the poor. Poor Black people, poor white people, the working class poor, right? And so that's what we're seeing right now. And we're seeing more and more. It doesn't even matter what city, what state you're living in. The disparity between those who have and those who have not is growing each and every day in this country. Each and every day. So much so that it is opening, I mean, it's just making it almost damn near impossible for us to even have a conversation about catching up. How do we catch up to the black and white wealth gap that exists in this country? How do we catch that up? Opening a couple of business here, investing in some stocks there, saving money here. You know what I mean? The system is so, and I think to your point, Beauty and Blood, the system is so distorted and so dysfunctional. It would leave us just constantly yearning and hoping and wishing upon the star that something would change. Look, I got to take another quick pause when we come forward. Let's continue the conversation. Is democracy in chaos? Agree or disagree? Share your thoughts on our chat as we're streaming live on Black Star Network, Amazon News, Freevee, Plex TV, on Facebook, and of course on YouTube. We would love to hear what you have to say. Stay with us. This conversation continues on the other side, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We are talking and having a conversation, and I want you to join me, folks, as we have this discussion about, is democracy in crisis or in chaos, excuse me. And I think that this is a very, very legitimate question. It's so serious of a question that President Biden, President Biden has officially said that this point alone will be the core of his reelection campaign, which is to quote unquote save democracy. Remember, I told you that last week the president gave an address where he explicitly mentioned Donald Trump as being a threat to democracy, Donald Trump MAGA being a threat to democracy. This is when he said this is going to be one of the core tenets of his presidential reelection campaign. Is the fact of saving democracy. That's what he said. Now, looking at all that has happened over this past few days, today is Thursday. Happy Thursday. But looking at all that has happened from Monday to up to today, how everything has played out. We're talking about the ouster of Kevin McCarthy. We're talking about the start of Trump and his trials, right? And he was essentially, he was given a gag order because, and I think you don't like my music. I remember you making that point. You said, what other place can a person come out of the courtroom and then talk bad about the DA and the judge? So he was given a gag order, I think on Tuesday of this week, right? There's talk about this Ukraine bill, this Ukraine money that's being held up because of the GOP, right? There is talk about political violence. We're talking about a shutdown that may happen in November, right? So there's no guarantee that the government will continue to operate and people will continue to work and all of those things. So what are we looking at here, folks? And this is not like a doomsday conversation. I don't want us to get into this space. It was like, man, well, we might as well go into a bunker, and call it quits. Like, this is not what I'm doing, but this is a conversation I think that for those of us who are very serious about the state of not just democracy, but where we are in this country, who are serious about this work. This is one of those conversations. I want to share with you what New York Times writer Peter Baker, who has covered the past 5 presidents, and he's done some reporting from Washington, what he had to say on this, and then I'm gonna come back to you, what y'all have to say as my crew. He said, there was a time not long ago when the United States presumed to teach the world how it was done, when it held itself up as a model of a stable, predictable democracy, when it sent idealistic young avatars to distant parts of the globe to impart the American way. These days, to many watching at home and abroad, the American way no longer seems to offer a case study in effective representative democracy. We shared that part of what he said. He said the institutions that were already strained during Donald J. Trump's presidency now faces a series of profound stress tests. Can the courts maintain public faith and deal credibly with a former president running for his old job who has been accused of so many crimes it is hard to keep track? Can Congress get its act together enough to simply pick a leader, much less address vexing issues like immigration, spending, climate change, and gun violence? Can the presidency in the hands of an aging traditional politician like President Biden be a tool to heal the wounds of a society? Listen to what he's saying. He said the former President Trump has long chosen provocation over peacemaking, but in recent weeks, he has escalated the violence of his rhetoric. He threatened to investigate NBC News for treason if he gets back in office. He mocked the husband of former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who was attacked in their home, called for shoplifters to be shot on sight, and implied that General Mark A. Milley, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, should be executed as a traitor, saying, "If you go after me, I'm coming after you," he wrote on social media in August. The political parties, of course, sometimes devolve into internal struggles. The Democrats have their differences as well, although not nearly as drastic as those of the Republicans, and they have their scandals. Moreover, America has gone through other periods of deep divisions, as during the eras of McCarthyism, civil rights, Vietnam, and Watergate, to say nothing of the Civil War. What is different now, according to some scholars, is that Republicans under Trump have directly attacked the foundation of the democratic system by refusing to accept an election that they lost by tolerating, if not encouraging, political violence, most notably the January 6th assault on the Capitol. According to one publisher, a democracy on the verge of veering out of control is the consequence when one of the major political players in the democratic process won't accept the basic rules of the game. This came from Daniel Zeitbleit, that Harvard professor who wrote that book, Tyranny of the Minority, with his colleague Steve Levitsky, who wrote another book called How Democracies Die. Mr. Baker said, "The American public has been sour on the country for a remarkably long stretch. The last time a majority of Americans reported being satisfied with the way things are going in the United States and Gallup surveys was January 2004, nearly 2 decades ago. That has taken a toll on American institutions, fewer than half of Americans express confidence in the police, the medical system, organized religion, the Supreme Courts, banks, public schools, the presidency, large tech companies, organized labor, the media, the criminal justice systems, big business, or Congress, according to Gallup, which last year recorded significant declines in 11 of the 16 institutions it tracks. Only small business and the military drew more than 50% support." I'm going to stop it right there from Mr. Peter Baker. This is heavy, folks. Again, we're not going to be able to get to all of this, right? We're not going to be able to have a resolution, but this is more of this type of conversation that is looming in every discussion, every political discourse that is happening in this country. And this is not just black and white. This involves all of us. This involves all of us. That we're losing faith in our government, that the leaders that are standing in front of us are showing that they have no idea what to do, that the rules of the game are changing right before our eyes, and there's no accountability nor consequence against those who are changing the rules for their benefit. Is democracy in chaos? Real Brooklyn, my guy, you said, to answer your question, Farajii, since democracy literally means power of the people, in other words, is our will in question or not? Like how you put that, Real Brooklyn. You said democracy in this country goes as far as electing public officials, but ends at inner workings of government. With that said, do we really have a true democracy? Great question. Great question. I want to go to something that Conscious Thought you saying. Conscious Thought, you said earlier, stop saying that, Farajii, that we do not yet have the numbers for a constitutional convention, because I talked about a constitutional convention, because we're seeing that more scholars are saying that the Constitution may be as responsible, and as I shared with you in that previous comment, how one person says it's radicalizing Republicans, but even though we may not have the numbers, Conscious Thought, the reality is, since the Constitution has not been updated, to truly speak to where we are in this Constitution, if we do not have a constitutional convention, and yet we're still going down the path that we're going, then the Constitution will render itself meaningless because we're not following the guidance, we're not following the rules. If the only rule for to be president, for example, is that you must be a citizen of the United States and be over the age of 40 years old, and that's pretty much it, then it leaves open this big ass door of interpretation as to who can do that and who can seize power. But if we keep going down this road, then the Constitution will not be as effective. It will not be as meaningful. It will not be used as the guide for this form of government because we have veered so far off, as Mr. Peter Baker said and Daniel Zeitblad said in their book. We are veering so far off. We are in uncharted waters. Brother Willie Frazier, you said this. We're going to take another pause in a moment. You said for decades, maybe even centuries, this country has gone in and disrupted other democracies because their ideals are counter to capitalism. This is karma on a grand scale. Whew. Whew. That old saying, right, Big Brother Willie? The chickens have come home to roost. This is something else. Corinna, you said we have great potential to have true democracy, but you answered the question being raised, no, we have never truly had a democracy in this country. So if we are even going back to this point, y'all, if we're talking about what is a real democracy, then we're talking about something that is at the root of the Constitution. Because the Constitution is supposed to have given us the framework for a quote unquote democracy. We know there's a republic involved in this element too. So if we're questioning even what is a democracy, then that's a very, very fundamental different conversation. You see what I'm saying, y'all? So we are talking about something. We're all got to question this. And this is not a question just for the scholars and the political leaders and for those in government. This is a question for the American people, whether you're Black, white, Asian, Latino. Here's the bigger question. Okay, so if we are kind of trying to question whether this is a democracy, then the bigger question is what form of government or what do we want a quote unquote democracy to look like moving forward? You know what I'm saying? Sean Ryan, you checked in and said, what would have to be changed in the Constitution? How about the simple fact, Sean, that Black people are still considered to be 3/5 human beings? I mean, I know that might sound antiquated. I know that might sound like a moot point to some. But if you're going back, if someone who is a quote unquote fundamentalist of the Constitution, and they literally take that clause, that part of the Constitution to be the law, because it's inscribed in a founding document, then that means what? That person is carrying an attitude that can lead to a belief that could be inscribed in a law of disrespect for Black people that have no regard for our life or our humanity or our well-being. Just using that as an example. Let's talk about the Electoral College and the idea that, yes, we can have a popular vote, and you're saying it's beauty and blood, get rid of the Electoral College, but you're saying if you have a small group of people who really dictates whether somebody gets into office, yes, millions of people can vote, but 200 or so folks can determine who becomes the president. Wow. You see what I'm saying, y'all? So there are some big parts of the Constitution that has to be raised. Big parts of the Constitution. So it's not as if the Constitution is a perfect document. And I think that's one of the things that in this country we have yet to fully embrace. that the Constitution is not a perfect document. It's actually a document, a work in progress document that had to be updated given the time, given the diversity of people. So yeah, we got some changes to make. But look at all of these things as we're looking at this big picture. I'm gonna stop the conversation here because we got to get prepared for our next guest. But let us keep thinking about these things. Let us consider the implication of these things. Let us look at all of the pieces and connect the dots of what just happened this week alone. Just this week alone, y'all, we've seen history being made. Just this week alone. I called it at the beginning of the week, the GOP implosion. And just this week, we're seeing a major political party falling in on itself, being destroyed and being eaten and taken down by its own members in just this week alone. As Mr. Peter Baker said in his column, stress test. All institutions, all of the American people, all of our faith and our hope is being put to the test today. And we got to figure out if we're going to pass this test or not. We got to take another quick pause when we come forward. We're going to switch gears and talking about how one man is doing his part to try to redefine Black arts and culture. Stay with us. We're going to have our conversation up next with our brother, Mr. Roxy Corvell. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We're going to be checking in with our brother Roxy in a few moments. But I do want to just make note of what many of you are checking in to say as we have these, just talking a little bit about this democracy piece. And I want to make sure that I update my statements properly. That way, because my team just say, we want to make sure that we say this. And I truly appreciate my team for alerting me to this, that the 14th Amendment, folks, does repeal the 3/5 clause, Section 2 of the 14th Amendment. And I would advise that I used to, and I was looking for it the other day, but I had this pocket version of the United States Constitution, and I used to take it around with me where I went in certain, just going in certain spaces and places, just as a reference, right? And I would advise us to take a look at those. If you have a chance to get a copy of the Constitution in a pocket version, then I would recommend that you just invest. It's probably just a few dollars. I don't think a lot of people are rushing to get a pocket version of the Constitution nowadays. But it's important that we do have some understanding and some knowledge. And so it's just something that came to my mind as we were talking about this. But many of you are saying, well, what about this? And Sean, I know you heard, see your comments about what is it about the Constitution that we need to change? Like when you don't know, like a lot of us, and I don't know who said it earlier today, but one of you in the chat mentioned the fact that, and I think it was you, Corinna, but you mentioned that a lot of people just don't know about their government. And it made me think about what benefit would it be for the powers that be to keep us illiterate or ignorant of what's going on with the government, right? Like when you think about how government is taught in schools, back in the day, it was taught a certain way, right? There was the understanding of the three branches and all of those things. And Corinna, you and I talked about this on last week, and we're in that civics conversation. But it's not the same anymore. And y'all remember last week when Corinna was on, I had quoted the University of New Hampshire when they talked about how in a study it showed that 26% of Americans actually knew the three branches of government back in 2016. That number has actually increased by 2021, right? It went up to a little bit over 50%. But it's still the fact that a lot of people just didn't know, right, that three branches of government. But it also speaks to the fact that, we are often kept in a space of ignorance. And I'm saying as the American electorate, right, as the American population, we are kept in a space of ignorance often. You know what I'm saying? We are more distracted rather than educated. And I think that speaks volumes about where we are in this country, and more importantly, where this culture is. So it is something else. It is really something else. Conscious Thought, you said, let me see here, because I know you posted a few times, Conscious. Let me just see. You said that would be determined by those who are positioned, Democrats or a GOP, with the numbers to make that decision. Your response to Sean Ryan's point, what amendments would be added or taken away when we're talking about this Constitution, like constitutional change? You're saying that would be determined by those who are in position with the numbers to make that decision. So there should be some more discussion about this. Turner family, you're talking about why we're not talking about Chicago or the new immigrant issue and how the Democratic Party is giving black folk the big FU or black farmers. Come on, black people can't act blind. We have talked about some of those things. We talked about black farmers. We certainly done that. The immigrant issue, we haven't talked about that, but we could talk about that, Turner family. But there's so many issues that we don't, we have covered. You coming into the chat and it's just like, oh, well, why y'all not talking about this? And we're talking about as many of the issues as possible, bro. We're talking about as many of the issues that are possible. And no, will we cover every single thing that happens in Black America or 3/4 of the things that happens in Black America? No. It depends on what the situation is, what's the current conversation is, what people are talking about, where their heads are. So to your point, there are some things we can address and other things we don't address, but let's try to figure out a way to bring it into the conversation. Beauty and Blood, you were just going back to your point, you said a well-informed citizenry is the best defense against tyranny. That was a quote from Thomas Jefferson. I truly appreciate you posting that. Thank you so much. A well-informed citizenry is the best defense against tyranny. Very, very much so. Thank you, Beauty and Blood. Carolyn Harrison, you said Constitution isn't absolute. Read the full Second Amendment. It doesn't say everybody has a right to as many guns as they want. Good point. Yeah, good point. Kathleen, thank you, Carolyn. Kathleen Davis, you said, I never expected anyone to teach me what I needed to know. That's why they didn't want us to read. I never expected anyone to teach me what I needed to know. That's why they didn't want us to read. Excellent point. We cannot expect somebody to teach you something that will take them out of power and control. And I think that's the part about it. Well, why didn't they teach us about how do we get out of this thing? Yeah, well, because they will lose power and control. H. Renee Chambers, equal rights across the USA. Absolutely, I'm for equal rights. But guess what, H. Renee Chambers? Ms. Chambers, we have to fight for our rights. We can't just sit idly by and watch things happen and not say anything and not get involved, not advocate. I agree, equal rights across the board, but you're right. So when we're talking about this, this is the problem. I'm gonna take another quick pause. We're gonna try to get in with our brother, Roxy Carvel, and try to close this out in a nice bow as we have these big conversations. And I appreciate each and every one of you for jumping in a discussion around this. But let this be a guiding conversation. Like, this is still a work in progress. We're still bringing it in, but I wanted to at least continue the discussions that we have been having, because I don't want us to forget about the critical nature of the time that we're living in right now, folks. Very historic, very timely. This is game-changing moments, right? I was watching a documentary the other day, and they were talking about big moments in American history. This is a big moment, and we need to talk about it. We need to examine it. We need to analyze it. We need to make sure that we understand the magnitude of this moment and the implications of this moment. This is big. And if you got people in major newspapers and political scientists and democracy scholars and saying, look, America's moving into a certain direction that we're not necessarily prepared for. This is a direction that we've been saying that we don't want to be in. Then the American people need to know. We need to have some different conversations about our democracy right now. So stay with me, folks. We got to take another quick pause. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Yeah, so many of you have been checking in and offering some valuable insight on these big conversations. So big shout out to you, my online culture crew. As we close out today's show, I definitely want to encourage you to check us out as we are streaming a lot of different things on our website at blackstarnetwork.com. And let me just acknowledge those who have shot that have supported us. Gwendolyn and Scott 94509 just donated, made her donation in the as she mentioned that in our super chat. So Gwendolyn, thank you so much for your donation. Let's give her a little something, something. There we go. But folks, go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com and give something. Our streaming is so powerful because you can often go to like a lot of other places to get latest news about what the president is saying, what's happening in Congress, and so much more. But here on Black Star Network, we try to do our very best to bring you up to date on all of those things. So make sure y'all do that. Now, speaking of politics, I'm just slowing it. Let's get out of the very hardcore politics, and let's think about something as we close out the show on a lighter note. Do you know that one of our to some people their favorite president, not talking about Clinton, celebrated 31 years of marriage. That's right, folks. President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama, they had their 31-year anniversary this week. And there we go. 31 years. Can you imagine? To all of the married folks out there in the chat, 31 years. Do we got some pictures of President Obama and First Lady Michelle? I know we got some pictures of that. Because they always look at that. Look at them. Can I ask y'all a question though? Real talk. Keep this picture up here. How come President Obama looks like he's getting older and Michelle is getting younger? Was that by design? I mean, what is that? As you can see, Michelle Obama said 31 years and a lifetime to go. I love going through life with you by my side. Barack Obama, happy anniversary, honey. There they are, folks. There they are. I'm trying to come up with the name. There goes the president and his first lady and our first lady right there. 31 years. That's a beautiful thing. They still look very, very happy together. And again, it's interesting that President Obama looks like he's getting just a tad bit older. I'm not going to throw no shade on the president because I want him to come on to the culture and talk to us. But also look like Michelle Obama is getting younger. So big shout out to the Obamas for celebrating 31 years of marriage. There we go. There we go. It's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. So we really appreciate them. But folks, I can't tell you enough that we are slowly working our way up to our Black Men Summit. So we invite you to let all your family and friends know. I put the word out there on my social media. We'll continue to pump it out there all throughout next week. We'll continue to let folks know that this Black Men Summit is coming together. We have a number of fantastic voices from all across the country, brothers who are scholars and activists and leaders who are going to be joining us for these conversations and making sure that you are a part of these discussions in a very important way. So make sure y'all tune in to our Black Men Summit here on the Culture, kicking off on the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March on Monday, October the 16th, and it goes all through the week to Friday, October the 20th. And we would love to just have you participate. And more importantly, tell your friends, tell your family, tell the brothers in your family, tell the men in your family to check out the conversation. If they're able to check it out live and join us in the Culture Crew, then by all means, please tell them about that. But we want to have these discussions and trust and believe, folks, trust and believe the folks that we have lined up for this summit. These aren't lightweight folks. All of these conversations will come to even greater light with these men that are coming on and being a part of that. So again, that's kicking off on Monday, October the 16th, on the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I want to thank each and every one of you. We didn't connect with our brother Roxy. Got to connect with him, make sure that we have that conversation about redefining Black arts and culture. So we'll make sure we do our due diligence there. But I truly appreciate all of you for joining us in the conversation, our great online culture crew. If you are new to the crew, welcome. If you are a legacy member of the crew, welcome, and thank you so much for your continued support. And it's certainly something that we don't take lightly. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Make sure y'all do your due diligence. Again, download the app Black Star Network on all your devices. Follow us on social media and give as much as you can, as much as your heart desires, as much as God inspires you to give to support this digital movement at this time. Because I don't know any other time than right now for us to have a platform like this, to have conversations like this, where other folks are just talking on the surface. We're trying to do our best to get into a much deeper level. So go to Black Star Network today, download the app for free, follow us on social media, and support. Also follow me, yours truly, at Farajii Muhammad on Facebook, The Real Farajii on Instagram. I need your Instagram followers so we can continue to push things out, to continue to have these conversations. And I would love to just to connect with you, to all of the crew members who send me videos. I take a look at these videos. These videos are crazy. Some of the stuff that y'all send me is just crazy. Not that you make it crazy, but just some of the content, just some of the stuff, the knowledge of certain things blows me away. So keep sending me videos, keep letting me know what's going on so we can do our part to bring it to the forefront here on this space. All right, so stay tuned. Up next, Roland Martin Unfiltered Thursday nights, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But always remember this, folks. Never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow. We got my sister Corinna Denise checking in. Hopefully she'll be able to check in tomorrow. But we got some great conversations lined up for you tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.